Yeah, I don't know
All
what
right.
to make of that fact because clearly Sarah was the linchpin. Um,
Um,
so I think the three of us, Jeremy, I'm sorry about this, should do a screen share and just review all the settings and see if we can
well,
make it
here's
all.
another issue. I just started the YouTube live stream and set it to public, but now it's saying video unavailable. This video is private, which is, oh, let me see if
That has happened to me sometimes, and it's still like I just have to do it again, and then it
I've got it
works.
now. I've got it. I was signed into a different YouTube account in that tab, so that's not an issue. All right. Well, there is a way in Zoom, when you go into the Zoom meeting configuration, you can set an alternate host. I don't know if that allows you to set an alternate host that's not on the same Zoom account or if they have to be under the same account. You could try putting me, Jeremy at 3duniverse.org, as an alternate host and see if it lets you. And that way I'd be able to, get things going even if you're not here. But I don't know if
Okay,
it'll let you set somebody as an alternate host unless they might have to be in the same account.
I'm looking into that as we speak.
Okay. Well, let's see. Um, I mean, it's only a handful of us, but I guess we can go ahead and get started. I will share my screen.
Okay, I don't, the workflow still doesn't work for me, so I'm just gonna put the um hub posts in the comments.
Oh, you mean in the chat?
Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah, I gotta get that open. I'll copy them in there. If I'm gonna be handling these going forward, I'll switch back to the workflow I was using before, and you should have no problem accessing that because I'll have control of the permissions then. All right, copy these in. All right, so let's start with these. Casey, sophomore in high school, planning to start a club. Find by looking at hospitals or Web Central, wondering if there's any opportunity to get volunteer hours for printing, constructing, or delivering devices. Um, well, I don't know if that's up to us. I would think that probably is more up to her school as far as what kinds of organizations are allowed to approve volunteer hours. I don't see why one of our chapters like yours, John, couldn't provide a letter or something, but what are your thoughts? John, are you with us?
Yeah, no, I'm here. I'm thinking. Um, well, sure. I can write a letter just saying she's doing good work for e-NABLE and we appreciate it and she deserves all the credit she can get.
Okay, I mean, since she mentioned getting volunteer hours, I don't know how this works in her school. It sounds like she might need a certain number of volunteer hours, so you might need her to like send you a report of her
Sure.
hours, and then you
Okay.
can respond with some kind of approval.
I'll respond to this. You know, I have no academic affiliation, but I can impersonate it.
Sure. If you're going to respond to that, could you also address her question about whether she needs to include e-NABLE in her club title, which I don't think is a requirement.
It is not
These,
required.
just
Sure.
let her know these designs are all free for anybody to use. Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next one then. Courtney. Courtney Knowles, would anyone know of any resources or free apps for an individual to self 3D scan a limb for measurements? And it looks like there have already been some good answers here. Um, Polycam app. Um, there's something for Android photogrammetry. I should have specified that we do have a 3D scanner, but we're unable to readily travel right now, and the individual is about 4 hours away, so I'm trying to figure out the best solution to allow her to scan her limb with the assist of a Zoom or phone call. Well, you can't really do remote 3D scanning, but the person themselves could install one of these apps on their phone. These scanning apps are available both for iOS and for Android. There are several decent 3D scanning apps available. I mean, it's not going to be quite as good as one of the high-end 3D scanners, but they're usable for getting a good sense of anatomy and size. So I would think that the patient or the client needs to install an app. They're probably going to need some help because somebody needs to kind of move that, around in 360 degrees to get a full scan of the limb. Yeah, somebody mentioned photogrammetry, which you could do. So that would involve having the client take a whole bunch of pictures of their own limb from all different angles. And then they could send those pictures to the volunteer, and the volunteer could process them using photogrammetry software to turn them into a 3D model. To me, that's a lot more complicated, but those are both options, I guess. It looks like these have been covered, but I don't really see anyone talking about the idea of just having the patient install one of these 3D scanning apps, taking a scan, and then sending the resulting 3D file to the volunteer. I don't know if this person is technical enough to do that or not, but that would be my only other thought. Anyone else have comments here for Courtney? Okay. I wonder if Sarah, I could ask you to help kind of share the bits of our recordings when we talk about these as responses on these threads. Would you
Yeah.
mind doing that? Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I do think it's useful to point out that unless they need 3D models, it's not the right way to begin a case. First, you want a holistic view of the situation before you get bogged down in technicalities.
That's right. And even a few sizing photos, which we have good video tutorials on, taking just a top-down photo and then a side photo of the limb will give you a pretty good place to start. You can take measurements from that. You can do a virtual fitting from that. So I don't know that we need to go to the point of a 3D scan unless there's something unique going on here where you need to capture the full geometry. But I agree with John. You want to make sure you've got all the rest of the information about the person and their needs first. All right, so moving on to the next one, Frazier and Honduras. 3D printed leg. Well, Frazier's on the island of Roatan. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. We're trying to 3D print a leg for an adult amputee who lost his limb in a motorcycle accident. We're new to this sort of work, and I understand that 3D printing a leg for an above-the-knee amputation is quite challenging. I came across the prosthesis leg design by Christian Silva, who we know on Thingiverse, and was wondering if we could use a scaled up version of those STL files. So I'm not familiar with Christian Silva's design. Are you, John, or is anyone else here?
Well, I remember it. It's from many years ago. Christian has moved on to other things. I do believe that um, there's a group in Syria that has been working on lower limbs, that there are other chapters that have done lower limbs.
Do you know
But
if they were doing actual legs or were they just doing feet?
I think they were doing higher than feet, but
Okay.
um, frankly, I don't know that uh, I can retrieve. I mean, interestingly, the one that I'm thinking about was covered in a PBS News report.
Smart Hand, right?
I'm
Ahmad
not sure,
wasn't.
but uh,
I thought that
uh,
was Ahmad here. I thought he was the one that we had on one of our town halls to talk about work on lower limbs.
it's possible. I am going to check another source I have.
Well, they are showing well, that's a fairing. That's not an actual leg prosthesis. That's just a cover. Looks like they're doing some really nice work with braces. Not seeing anything here about actual leg prostheses. I see a lot of
Oh, right. Well,
braces.
that is a good place to look, is to click
There's
on
the
the
foot.
macroscope and type leg.
Ah, okay. Also, Sarah or John, I see that we have the waiting room enabled, so I'm having to admit people when they come into the waiting room. Can we change that setting so people can just join?
Uh, I am the administrator,
Okay.
and I have not found the last thing you told me to look for, but that one I can probably find.
Yeah, there's a setting in there for using the waiting room. Just turn that off if you don't mind.
I think I'm in
Um,
settings.
okay. Well, whoops, where was I? Okay, so John, you're looking at another, you're searching the macroscope. Yeah, I don't know much about legs, so I can't really provide a lot of other advice here. Here in the US, we kind of tend to steer clear of that because of FDA oversight and their sort of uh, uh, discomfort with amateur folks like us working on things that could cause injury if they break. Um, he mentions here, that many limbs are printed with ABS. Yes, you can print with ABS. I would urge a little bit of caution just because ABS is, not necessarily the most bio-friendly material, so you'd want to be careful about skin contact. Um, there are also stronger materials nowadays, depending on your printer's capabilities. One thing to look at would be something like a nylon carbon fiber or other carbon fiber reinforced materials. And one that I just recently came across, which is pretty interesting, is a material called PPSCF, which I can't even remember what it stands for, polypyrrolene sulfide or something weird like that. But in fact, hold on one second. I'm going to stop my screen sharing and then restart it because I'll show you something pretty interesting while John is looking for that resource. Here we go. So share with sound. So this is an object that was printed in this PPSCF material, and when you tap it, listen to this. I mean, it feels and sounds like it's a metal, but it's not. This is directly off of a 3D printer. Um, and it's very strong, very temperature resistant. So something like that, PPSCF, it's a higher temp material. It needs to be printed around 320 to 340 degrees Celsius. So you need a printer that can handle that. But that's something like that. Those are the kinds of materials that I would look at if I was to mess around with some lower limb design. You want it to be as strong as possible for sure. Um, get my video panel back.
I can report on the macroscope if you
Yeah,
like.
what'd you find?
So first of all, I will share my screen, which
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't do. That's another thing we need to fix. Let's fix
Here, let
it.
me,
There's waiting room and there is
here,
screen share.
yeah, so for now, I changed the sharing so you can now share, but yeah, maybe you can share that and change that in the meeting
Okay.
settings.
So up at the top of the hub on the menu, you can click macroscope and then you get this. There's some videos down below which explain how to use it, but it's pretty trivial. If you type the word leg, you find all the posts right up to the present day. There's Fraser's,
Oh,
and
see
they
what
all
is Jack
use,
Buchanan doing?
pardon me?
That second dot, I think, was Jack Buchanan. I'm curious what he's doing.
Well, all you have to do is click on it, and then you find out that he responded to an earlier query about a
Yeah, he
pharmaceutical,
says as a general rule, anything to do with leg prosthetics is not recommended for non-professional.
which is of course true, although in other countries they don't really
Yeah,
have that luxury, and so they're the
right,
ones who've
right.
gone ahead. Anyway, the point is going through these systematically
Yeah,
would be a wonderful thing, but that's what I would recommend.
yep. Thank you for that, John.
And you can narrow it down or use the phrase lower limb. And it's still working and it's still up to date.
Nice. All right. Get the notes back up here. And we shall move on. Tebow needs volunteer. Let's see, he's had an accident with motorcycle and ended up with a plexus injury. I'm not sure I know what that is. Anyone?
Lexus?
Complete loss of function in my arm. Oh, okay. So he's
Yeah,
looking
brachial
for,
plexus injury.
so it sounds like he didn't actually lose a limb. He lost function. So he's looking for one of those like exoskeletal devices that'll allow him to move his existing limbs. That's how I'm reading this. Do we have anything like that that's current and tested? I know there was the frog arm that was doing some work in that regard, but I don't know
No,
if
we
that
do not.
ever.
I
Hmm.
don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know that we really have anything that's been vetted. There are two devices that exist, the Myo Pro from Myomo and the Neo 1 from Vincent Systems. I think he's referring to bionic hands, and he's looking for something that sort of works similarly but could fit around his limbs. Well, he's asking if anyone is up for the challenge. I'd say it's definitely quite the challenge. I mean, this is getting into bionics and um, something that could function by moving existing limbs. It's definitely something that, yeah, that would require a lot of design and testing and work. I think this is one best left for kind of the community to respond to, see if any ambitious volunteers respond with interest. Definitely not one I could help with, unfortunately. Anyone else have any comments or thoughts here for Tebow?
No, I think it's out of our league.
Yeah, okay. Unfortunately, we can't help everyone. Jenny. Jenny's from Papua New Guinea. For those of you who don't know where that is located, it's a small island country just north of Australia. Thankful for this community. It was created to assist individuals. Had a right hand index finger amputated in January this year. I'm healing from the surgery and looking for prosthetic suppliers to purchase one for myself. Unable to afford the high cost prosthetic finger devices and hope somebody here can help me with a 3D printed device. Okay, so hopefully somebody, yeah, here, I was going to say, hopefully somebody has told her that you don't need to pay for our devices at all. They've asked for photos. Please look at these photos. Let me know if you think this will work. But they sent a hand. I don't think they understood that she's looking for a finger. Let's see. It sounds like what you're looking for. Maybe a Nick finger. Good, Connie. You got it. Keep track of your requests. You may want to submit a request on e-NABLE Web Central. I mean, honestly, I'm almost hesitant to direct people there these days because it's not in the best shape, but it's the best we have today. So I don't disagree. And yes, I think we're talking about a Nick finger here. Are there any newer finger designs that I'm not aware of, or is the Nick finger still kind of the go-to
Well,
for
there's a
fingers?
kinetic finger, is there not?
You know, I think you're right. Why don't we confirm that right now? I'm hoping it would be on Thingiverse. That's where the kinetic hand is. Let's see. Kinetic finger. Indeed, from Matt Botel.
Ta-da!
To say you also might consider the kinetic finger. Okay, nice. Good call, John. Good call, Connie. Thank you. I think that one's in good shape. Yeah, we can maybe talk about that later. I just don't, like I said, I'm a little bit on the fence because I don't know really what the best guidance is for people to request devices nowadays. If somebody wants a device, do we say go to e-NABLE Web Central and create a case? Is it actually going to get, enough attention there? Do we tell them to just post on the hub and ask for help there? I don't quite know what to tell people right now.
I responded to someone just yesterday saying, describe yourself take a look at the hub. If you're comfortable describing your case and providing a few features, do it there. If you're not comfortable with that, go to Web Central.
Okay.
My understanding is that Web Central, that Jonathan is keeping an eye on Web Central these days.
He is, but that's more about kind of they're trying to go through all the very old stale cases and get them cleaned up and follow up with those people. I don't think they're really doing anything with making sure new cases are getting connected with volunteers. That's still all just kind of self-service. And I just don't know how many volunteers are checking e-NABLE Web Central these days to look for new available cases that actually need help.
Okay.
I
Well,
have
there's,
been looking at some of the new ones, Jeremy. So
Oh, I didn't realize you were here, Jonathan. That's great.
yeah. So if they go a week or two without getting any movement, I try to follow up with it and see if it's still active and try to link them up regionally with a
That's wonderful. I didn't even realize you
place
were doing
close to
that.
them.
And if you're not already, keep in mind the hub is a great opportunity for that. You can actually post in the hub to say, "Hey, we've got this case that's ready for somebody to help with." And you can actually put the case number in the hub. And that way somebody can go and sign into e-NABLE Web Central. There's a button on the front page where you can actually go to a case by the case number, so they can go right to it if you just give them the case number.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you. That's terrific that you're doing that. That actually makes me feel a lot more comfortable directing people to e-NABLE Web Central, because we've never really had anybody kind of shepherding those new cases and doing anything to try to help connect them with somebody. So that's wonderful that you're doing that. Okay. Any other comments for Jenny then? I think that's been covered. That was the finger. Okay, so let's move on to Alfred. War. Oh boy. Would anyone want to plan a strategic movement to help children who have suffered in the ongoing wars? For instance, could e-NABLE set up a plan to help kids who have lost limbs in Ukraine and Gaza? Wow, okay, this is a big topic. Somebody pointed out, Connie, again, thank you, pointed out there is an initiative to help Ukraine with 3D printed braces, and she connected him to adapt3d.org. That's great. This is no easy task. It's a very admirable goal, and I would love to see us do a better job with having some kind of formalized programs to go after this. This is the kind of thing that, among other people, Adam Jennings worked at some length to try to set up. It really requires partnerships in those areas to do well. You have to have somebody on the ground who can coordinate and work with people and do fittings and collect devices and all that. And we've just never really been successful in establishing the partnerships and getting the whole sort of workflow of engaging volunteers and producing devices and getting them to the right people. And it's just a lot of complexity to it. I don't know, John, what are your thoughts here?
um,
Or anyone else? I
you
don't
know,
mean
I
to
think
single out John.
Ukraine was marginal, and we've had marginal but positive impact. I'm afraid that Gaza is beyond marginal. We do have Arab as well as Israeli e-NABLE partners in Israel, but they sort of say it's very, very difficult, and that was before Gaza
Sure.
became the wreckage that it is today.
Right.
And B, they say it's not something we can talk about out loud.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would check with Ahmad in Syria, who's also relevant to the lower limb thing, to see if he has any thoughts about that. But I'm afraid it's just an absolute shit show, to use the
It
technical
is.
term.
There's a lot, like you said, I mean, it's not only is it complicated, but it's the kind of thing that would probably have to be discussed offline. And we certainly, as much as we want to help these people, we also don't want to put our volunteers at risk by sending them into dangerous places. It's a huge
It occurs to
challenge.
me that Egypt would be another partner to look at. They're right on the Gaza. They are dealing with Palestinian refugees from Gaza right now, and there has been an Egyptian chapter there also.
So I don't know
Uh,
if there's any possibility of some kind of a regional collaboration. I don't know how to even go about exploring something like that or coordinating something like that. There's just, I
Do we
just
know anything about the person who's querying here? Whose name I can't see, Alfred I.
I don't know, Alfred, and there's no details or
Okay.
badges.
Um,
So in answer to your question, Alfred, we would definitely want to, we just don't know how. Um,
I do think that a responsible person who was in a position to maintain a responsible correspondence, which is what I mean by responsible, not that any of us are irresponsible, could reach out to the Syrian and Egyptian groups and see if they have any thoughts on this.
okay,
It would require someone who really wanted to take it on and would have to recognize that
yeah,
it will be
agreed.
a delicate and long-term prospect.
That's right. It really needs some leadership, somebody that's going to stay with this for a long-term effort and work to coordinate with relevant parties. And
And,
it's a
and
lot. It's a big project.
right. And I can speak for myself and say I would be quite happy to backstop that person. As and I imagine Jeremy would as well. We both do have lots of institutional memory, but I don't think either of us are in a position to try to crack that case.
Agreed. I'd be happy to advise, help with logistics, things like that, but somebody needs to take
Yeah.
the lead.
And just additional information here. Some of the grants I was looking at that were related to Ukraine was um, basically it looked like some language that you were expected to work and connect with certain government entities if you're doing anything with the relief efforts. And obviously those entities are difficult to get in touch with at the moment.
Right. Yep. A lot of complexity to it. So we'll see where the conversation goes. I mean, glad to see people commenting, but ultimately requires some very strong leadership and a lot of time and effort to coordinate something like this. And there's still certainly no guarantee of success, but nothing would make me happier than to see somebody figure it out. And we'll have to leave it at that. This should be
Sarah?
another one where it would be really nice to share a clip of this discussion here if you have the opportunity, Sarah, just because there were some good points raised.
Yeah.
Okay, and our last thread here is from Darren. Been wanting to take part in this wonderful project for years, but ill health and finance have held me back. I'm in a lot better position now and ready to take the plunge. Will any of the Bamboo Lab printers be capable of contributing? Absolutely. I love my Bamboo Lab printer. Here's Gavin is saying the P1P is excellent. Let's see, is printer bed large enough? Yep, I don't use the P1 series. I use the X1 series, which is wonderful and certainly large enough to make all these hands. It looks like the P1P is the same build volume, 256 millimeters cubed. So yes, that's a nice, it's like 10 inches cubed basically, which is more than adequate for all these designs. And yeah, so it looks like this has already been addressed. I would just echo what I'm seeing here that yes, the Bamboo Lab printers are wonderful. They're super fast and really do high quality prints. And I also relevant to this discussion, I did some dimensional accuracy testing with my Bamboo Lab X1 and was extremely impressed with how it did. It actually outperformed just about every other printer I've tested in terms of dimensional accuracy, which I was not expecting given the print speeds and the price point and everything. But it's tremendously accurate in terms of dimensional accuracy. So all those things make it an excellent candidate for these. And by the way, I will mention this is a little bit self-serving because I am involved in a sponsorship through this, but at our Enabling the Future website, we do have a shopping section there where people can kind of get started, and there's a variety of products, and I do have some of the Bamboo Lab printers there. These are the higher end ones, the X1 Carbon Combo and the X1, there's a typo there, that should be the X1E, which I'll fix. But those models are available. We don't have the P series available, but there are some options there for people that are interested. All right, so that's all of our comments from the hub. All right, I'm not sure I'm up to speed on all these topics. I think we talked already about Christopher in Tanzania. Are there any updates here? Does anyone know anything further? John, you were going to be there. Any news?
Well, Sarah can report, but we did take steps to um, connect with Kyle, and then with Kyle's friend, whose name I forget, but Sarah will remember. He was in contact
Yeah.
with Christopher. And I'm not sure what the upshot is on this. Sarah's about to refresh us.
So the contact is a Rajab, and so going back and forth with Christopher for quite a while now. And every time we've spoken, the number of people who need prosthetics has drastically increased, from 200 to 400 to 500. And so Rajab very kindly spoke with Christopher and gave the assessment that either Christopher does not want to work with Rajab or doesn't necessarily have that many recipients in his network. And in my follow-ups with Christopher after that meeting with Rajab, he said that he did not want to work with a different prosthetist, that he has his own, and that her name is Cecilia, and he very much looks forward to meeting with us and figuring out how e-NABLE is going to help all 600 people who need prosthetic devices. And I have continuously told him that we can make no guarantees, and I have asked for Cecilia's contact information so that we can set up a meeting with everyone, and he has not responded to that yet.
Okay. I think that's exactly right.
I do too.
And if we can get the follow-up meeting, it will be great. If we can't help.
Yeah, because I mean, ultimately, we need details about we need to pick a handful of specific, patients, get some photos, get some measurements, do a trial run, see if we can get some devices to Cecilia, get them fitted, see if we get successful outcomes, and then figure out how to approach a broader group. We got to start somewhere, and I think you're on the right track. It should be to meet with Cecilia.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that update, Sarah. Okay, we've got a grants report. I'll turn to Jason for this. And Jason, let me just point out that I added in the link to the Google Docs version of what you shared earlier today. So that's in here now for anyone that wants to help on that.
Appreciate that. So I have finally reached the end of my 4-week long travel gauntlet. So I am back on the map. So the next steps are, I mean, we've got the two strong possibilities of the Robert and Tony Bader $20,000 for that foundation. And then the cytokinetics for $30,000, where that's one where we kind of made it through the initial screening, and we need to sort of finish the application. So now that I'm back home, those are going to be the next two steps. Within that, and just to explain the e-NABLE overview for grant applications, what we want it to do is come up with a sample, very generic grant that is not personalized to any particular foundation. Obviously, any foundation that we do pursue will need to go in and change some of the messaging. But all of the winning grant examples that I've researched over the months of doing this here have started with some manner of executive overview. So let's get a page and a half so they can read through it, and then followed by a detailed project plan. So that project plan will always include phasing. It will always include budgeting and a budget justification for that. So we wanted to use this as a master document to go through with that format. And as you can see, Adam's already added his edits for that first pass. You may have some formatting issues down towards the bottom with that enable helping hand kind of logo there, but this was a good one to kind of get off the plate and out to the community. We do have an opportunity. I included that in my email to you, Jeremy and John, to, I think, have a budget that reflects more of direct impact to those that receive our devices. I think that would just resonate more strongly in our messaging to any of these foundations. And it may be one of the ways that we, maybe one of the sources of those grants kind of getting kicked back or are not following through with the project. So initially this was detailed for our greatest challenge, which is reaching the people that we need to reach. So we've included some resources for things like marketing, securing e-NABLE Hub. I know we've got some updates there too, but as our planning meeting of what we decide to do with the Aero budget progresses, I think our budget section here is also going to progress. But
Yep.
if we have a particular project in mind, so something like the Tanzania effort that was just mentioned, like a specific problem, a specific community that we can address, I think that's going to resonate very well in a grant application. So more to come now that I'm back, and we'll have more updates next time.
Okay, thank you. And I'll just point out that one of the challenges that we need to be thinking about as a community is that in order to win these kinds of grants and get more of this kind of funding, we need to be able to demonstrate our ability to effectively use that funding. It's something that we have not had a great track record with. We have, I think, some very good discussions happening in our strategic planning meeting, but so far we're pretty far from coming up with a concrete plan for how to make really good use of the $100,000 within the sort of the 1-year term that I think it was intended for. So that's something we'll have to talk more about in the next meeting. But figuring out how we can actually put plans together and execute on those plans and be able to show the results and show that we actually had meaningful impact through the use of those funds is an important part of this picture, so that we can win future grants then.
Yeah, and I think
those examples.
We have, if we have very specific and measurable results, I don't think we rule out the chance of a future donation from Aero as well.
Yeah.
If we put together an impressive utilization package for them.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. So the link is here, and let me just share this as far as the, what are we calling this? The e-NABLE summary for grant applications. So there's a link that is editable by anyone who wants to contribute there. If you have any interest, please share your comments. Just, like Adam did, you can just highlight text and add a comment wherever you have thoughts, and you can suggest changes, and together we can get that into the best shape possible to help position us to win some more grants.
And John has his hand up there.
Yeah, John.
Yeah, I wonder if you would add to that document a link to the spreadsheet, if it exists or not, which enumerates the 10 or so people we've written to already.
Sure.
And that document that spreadsheet should similarly link to this template.
Got you. I have a slide on it, so I can just copy and paste into a spreadsheet. And I can have that today.
If you're going to do that, ideally drop it into a Google sheet, not an Excel sheet. That way it's easier for us to access. Okay. All right, great. Whoops, wrong notes. Okay, so that's our grant situation. I I noted here that our current e-NABLE fund balance is $101,740. So as you can see, we haven't dipped into that 100K much. That's what the strategic planning is about. And that is our next meeting. So immediately following this, 15 minutes from now, we'll start our next strategic planning meeting. I know we are going to be missing a couple of people today. I think I saw emails from Ian and Eric, both of whom are unavailable due to having class situations going on. But hopefully we'll have enough others there that we can talk about the current proposals and next steps, especially the one for the website, which Morgan would be leading, but we'll talk more about that in the next meeting. I have a note here about a power-up conference, April 8th and 9th. Did we know did anyone end up getting to that? Did we have any representation there? I'm kind of guessing we didn't, because I know Adam had a lot going on. Okay, well, I'm just going to take that off then for now. I think that's done for this year. Oh, I guess so. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the order of these notes. I guess our action items are down here. So Ugani partnership. Okay, these don't look like action items to me. These look like notes. Okay, Missouri AT program updates from Scout. I'm sorry, I'm a little confused. These don't look like action items to me.
Yeah, those are probably mislabeled.
Okay,
You know,
so is there anything to talk about with regards to Ugani partnership? I don't know, was that something Adam was working on?
That was Adam's baby, and it's
Yeah.
worth reviewing, but we will need Adam to discuss it.
Okay.
Yeah, I
and
know
same-
I know we've from Adam and I's standpoint, we still keep in touch with the Ugani team and still looking for that would be sort of my first go-to when it comes to a grant application where we would need coverage for both the upper and lower limb prosthetic devices.
Okay.
So from that perspective.
Where did we leave off with Dora? Did we send them last year's report?
We did, and we did not hear anything back.
Okay.
That sort of overlapped with the Arrow grant, which I think I
Okay.
mentioned to them. And frankly, I would let it sit for the moment.
Okay. Mission statement options, I guess that's covered in the Google Doc that Jason shared. Downshift town hall cadence. Okay, so this was already done. We switched to twice per month.
So you can remove that one if you want
Well,
to.
I mean, these are all, I think,
These
dated.
all look like expired action items.
Yeah.
Well, Ugani is
These
not,
are just notes about
right.
Ultimaker that can
But
go. Website and Trello board. We never really did do anything with Trello. We have it set up and that was going to be our answer to managing projects and it's just kind of sitting there. So I don't know what to do with that. Okay, I think that's about all we got for now then. Does anybody else have any other topics you'd like to cover? Otherwise, we can take a little bit of a break before the next meeting.
What I'd really love to do, Jeremy, is to screen share as I go through the Zoom settings and see if we can't tune things up as needed.
Okay, why don't you stay in, John?
Okay.
Do you want me to
And
stay also?
Sarah, you stay also.
Okay.
Okay,
And everyone else, you take a little break and hopefully we'll see some of you back here for the strategic planning meeting at the top of the hour. And I believe, Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the same link as this meeting or is it a different one
no,
now?
it's different.
It's different. Okay, so you should have received an invite and it should, I think you put it in the hub calendar, right?
Yeah,
Strategic planning, and yes, that's a different meeting ID. So yeah, use the link that's in the hub. It's right in the sidebar up under upcoming events, strategic planning meeting. And I hope to see some of you there at the top of the hour.
thanks, everyone.
All right,
Thank
bye.
you. All right, so I'm going to share my screen.
All right.
And I don't think I have Zoom open, so I'm going to go to zoom.us. Let it be known that the administrator of our new e-NABLE Zoom account paid for by e-NABLE, not by 3D Universe, is jshell@enable.org. If you look at user management, you will see that. Okay, so I believe that I can add, for example, Jeremy to a team without sucking him, without, so let's just see what happens. So Jeremy, you don't, do you have an e-NABLE address, or
No,
shall
you're, I have an e-NABLE account, but I don't think that's gonna help me because I'm always signed in on my 3D Universe account, but you can't add that because I'm already associated with a different Zoom account. So what
It's
we
not-
want to do is go to the meeting, like pull up the town
Jeremy,
hall
one
meeting.
second, 1 second.
Yeah.
I want you to notice that we can have basic and licensed users here.
Right.
So I can add you, well, you think it
It won't
will,
let you, it won't let you add my 3D
right,
Universe
you
account
know it.
because
Okay,
it's,
tell me what you
yeah.
want me to do.
So just go to meetings on the left,
Meetings on
up top. There you go. And I don't know if it's gonna, the problem is I don't know if it's gonna let us edit the meeting that we have running right now.
Well, what we want to do is arrange that new meetings will be pre-configured appropriately, right?
Well, no, because you created the town hall as a recurring meeting, didn't you?
Yes, but if necessary, I would recreate it as a recurring meeting with the right.
But then we have to change the links again and get new invites. I mean, it would be better to use the one that we already have, so we don't have
Okay.
to change everything again.
You
But I
can,
don't, it's not gonna let us edit it because we're in it. I think what we have to do is we'd have to drop out of this meeting and I would host a Zoom meeting and then you could share a screen because then we're not in your Zoom session.
I'm willing to do that in the
But
8 minutes.
I don't know that we're gonna have time with 8 minutes to go here. Do you want to do this after the strategic planning meeting instead?
Yes,
Okay, so why don't we just take a quick break? Let's do the strategic planning and then immediately following that, I'll get you into a Zoom meeting and we'll have full access to everything under your account then.
that's great. Thank you.